Wow. Good evening. Students, parents, faculty, members of the community, and alumni via YouTube, it is my pleasure tonight to welcome you to the Words of Wisdom speaker series at Clayton High School. My name is Zachary Price. I am a senior and one of the students on the WOW steering committee. At the beginning of this school year, WOW was merely just an idea for a unique new speaker series at CHS, where each month a faculty member would have the opportunity to step outside of the classroom to tell a meaningful story and share their words of wisdom with students, staff, and members of the community. Thanks to the support of Interim Superintendent Charmin Wilkinson and Principal Louise Losses, this idea has become a reality. And over the past several months, we have been amazed by the inspirational speeches by Ms. Rogersbeard, Mr. Helsher, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Ryan. This evening, we are honored to welcome Mr. Napoleon Carter to WOW. Mr. Carter taught at Whiteout Middle School for 23 years. Although he retired several years ago, he remains active in various activities in the Clayton community, including Vietnam Day and 6th grade camp. Now, without further ado, let's give a big round of applause for Mr. Carter.
Well, good evening, everyone. First, let me say thanks to the WOW committee for this tremendous honor. I am indeed privileged to be able to stand before you today, especially because I know a lot of you from Whiteout, and I saw some of my colleagues that were from Whiteout there that are here to support me, and most of all, my wife Brenda is back there here to support me as well. So, thank you so much. Now, here's how we're going to proceed. You know, I first started out overwhelming you with some numbers and statistics and all kinds of things that I've read along my educational journey. But on my way here tonight, I sort of had an epiphany. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to tell you some personal stories about the wisdom that came to me via my grandmother through a culture that some of you are probably not familiar with, which is a culture of farming and sharecropping. And then I'm going to connect those stories to education in general of what we're doing now. And then we're going to leave you with some questions to ponder as we leave. So if you'll allow me to do that, I will clear my throat and get started. Now, I was born down in southeast Arkansas, in a little town called Yorktown. Ain't even on the map now. Well, it is now, since there's folks down there what have money. But I was born the son of a sharecropper, right on Bayou Bartholomew. Now, that's a little valley that snakes down, comes right off of the Arkansas River. I don't know how to play this well. right off the Arkansas River, and that's where I spent my childhood. And what a wonderful childhood it was. Now, I lived with folks what taught us things that we didn't know about. And the most smartest one of them was my grandmother. What a smart woman. Mama Chris, we called her. Her name was Christine Jones. And Mama Chris was the smartest woman in the world. And she had a unique way of explaining stuff what we didn't understand. Just like folks with you did. Now I remember one time, we was out playing. Now we had two fine mules named Kate and May. Kate and May was the most gentlest mules in the world. And they could plow all day. And they never complained about a thing. Well, one day we was plowing those fields, and Mrs. Andrews brought her mules over there. And their names was Jill and Jacqueline. They was some good mules too. They plowed all day and didn't complain. Well, when the plowing was done that day, and we were sitting down to supper, I said, Mama Chris, how come ain't no boy mules in that group of mules that we had? And she said to me, well, first she looked me in the eye, and then she said, come here, boy. And she gave me a big old hug because she loved me. Folks wouldn't love you, they'll hug you. And she looked me in the eye and said, there ain't no boy mules because all mules is girls. Well, now that was a real head scratcher. Now, how could all mules be girls? So, that night I couldn't sleep. And I thought about it, and I thought about it. And that next day, I decided I was going to find out there was the boy mules. So I went first to Mr. Reuben Bones. He had about 5 or 6 mules. And I went up to him, and he was out there getting ready to plow. And I said, Mr. Bones, how many of your mules is boys? And he said, son, all my mules is girls. Don't you know? All mules is girls. Well, I wasn't satisfied. So I went back. I kept going through the village. And I went to Mr. Bill Johnson's farm. He was out there plowing. I went out there, he had about 8 or 9 mules because he had a really big farm. And I said, Mr. Johnson, how many of your mules is girls? I mean, is boys? And Mr. Johnson said, son, all of my mules is girls. Well, now I was really baffled. I was sure there had to be some boy mules out there. So I went to one more farm. I went to Bill Johnson, who was Mr. Johnson's brother. No, I'm sorry, Jim Johnson. And he had more mules than anybody. He had the biggest farm down there in our little village. And I said, Mr. Johnson, how many of your mules is boys? And he said, son, don't you know, all mules is girls. Well, after that, I had been out a long time. So I went home because I knew that Mama Chris would be worried about us. I had been out a long time. So I decided I was going to go home. So I started going home. And then when I started approaching home, Mama Chris came out on that porch and said, boy, where you been? We've been worried sick about you. Because folks who love you, they worry about you. So I went up to the porch and I said, Mama Chris, I've been looking for a boy mule all day. And I can't find no boy mules. And she said, come here, boy. She looked me in the eye, and she gave me a big old hug, and she said, a long time ago, there was a mule named Jillian. She was a girl. And Jillian was the stubbornest mule in the world. And one day, Jillian was out there plowing a field of corn, and it got so hot that corn started popping. But Jillian was so stubborn that she decided it was snow, and so she froze to death. So from that day on, all girls, all mules, is girls. But I still had a head scratcher on that. But Mama Chris was the smartest woman in the world. And she had a unique way of explaining stuff, but we didn't understand. So I went to bed that night, tossing and turning, trying to figure out where I could get what I needed. Well, I never did get the answer to that. Never did get the answer to it. As far as I was concerned, all views was curves. So, when Mama Chris decided to tell us stuff, it was like the gospel. Like another time I remember, we was down, now when I was a kid, when school was out, we'd kick off our shoes, and we'd go down on that bow and we'd fish all day long. I mean, we'd get our fishing poles out, we'd throw them out there in the water, and we'd be snatching those fish out left and right all day long. Well, me and Mama Chris was down on that bayou one day, we was pulling them fish out faster than you could say fish. And we got through, I got them buckets up with all them fish in it, because Mama Chris was the greatest cook in the world. I knew she was going to fillet them fish up, and we were going to have us a feast of catfish that night. And we was going up the hill, I was humming, and just thinking about them good catfish we was going to have that night. And so we get up there, and Mama Chris cleaned them fish up, and she put them in the oven, in that old wood oven, cut them up real golden brown, and we sat down to supper. Well, about halfway through the supper, I was thinking how fortunate we had been that day, catching all them fish. I was thinking maybe we caught all the fish out of the bayou that day. And so, a question popped in my mind. And I know that Mama Chris was the smartest woman in the world, so I asked her that question. I said, Mama Chris, how did all them fish get in the bayou? You know what she did? She said, come here, boy. She looked me in the eye. She gave me a big old hug. And she said, and you listening carefully. At night, when it's raining and it's real dark, and not a star in the sky, and it's raining real hard, the fish fall from the sky into the bayou. Now I had another head scratcher. I was thinking, how on earth can fish fall from the sky? But I know that Mama Chris wouldn't tell me wrong because she was the smartest woman in the world. Well, you know what happened? I couldn't wait till a dark, rainy night. I waited and finally I got that dark, rainy night. And I sneaked out of the house and I went down on that bayou. And I was creeping along and it was raining really, really, really hard. And I listened real carefully. And sure enough, I heard something hit the water. And I was like, God, Mama Chris was right. Them fish is falling from the sky. So I ran back upstairs, I ran back up that trail, back up to the house, and I couldn't wait. I burst in the house and I said, Mama Chris, you was right. Fish do fall from the sky. I heard them falling. And you know what she said? She said, come here. She looked me in the eye, and she gave me a big old hug, and she said, did you learn anything down there? And I said, no ma'am, only that fish fall from the sky. She said, well, remember this, don't you believe everything you hear. Now go to bed. And so I went to bed that night thinking I had heard fish fall from the sky. So that problem was solved. I know how them fish got in the bayou. And I was real happy about it. When you learn stuff, you get real happy. When you really know it and you believe it, you're really, really happy about it. Well, after the fish story, I kept doing stuff with Mama Chris, because she was the smartest woman in the world. I was learning a lot from her. But I remember one time, way back when, we had a cow. We had a milk cow named Starry. Starry was the most gentlest cow in the world. She'd stand there while I milked her, would not move a muscle, and she could give a whole lot of milk. Now Starry was what you call a contented cow. She wasn't mad at nobody, wasn't nobody mad at her. She was real gentle, and she did what she was supposed to do, and that was to give milk, nourish our family. Well, one day, Starry came up from the bow and she had a little bitty calf with her. And I was like, my God, Starry's got a calf with her. Well, now you know that I was thinking, where did that calf come from? So what do you do when you want to know something? You go to the smartest woman in the world, right? So I was out, so that morning we was out there milking, and I didn't want to ask Mom Chris, but I just couldn't help it. So I said, Mom Chris, where did Starry get that calf from? Well, you know what she said? She said, come here, boy. She looked me in the eye, and she gave me a big old hug, and she said, you listen to me closely now. She said, when nobody's around, out in the middle of the woods in the forest, the cow will go and find the calf. That's how Starry got the calf. She went and found that calf out in the woods. And I thought about that, and I had me another head scratcher. So that night, I was tossing and turning, I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about what a beautiful thing that calf was. I had to have me one of them calves. And so, I thought about it, and I thought about it. And I went out there, and I stayed out there looking for that calf. I was looking around, I looked under branches, and I looked behind trees, and I looked all over the place, and I could not find that calf. And finally, after so many hours of looking for the calf, I finally gave up, and I went home because I knew Mama Chris was going to be worried about me. I'd been gone a long time. So when I got home, I got close to home, she was out on the porch, and she said, boy, where you been? We've been worried about you. Because folks would love you. They worried about you. But I got up on the porch, and I said, Mom Chris, I've been looking all day, but I couldn't find no calf out there like Starry found. Well, you probably know what Mom Chris said. Come here, boy. And she looked in the eye, gave me a big old hug. And she said, you can look out there. The rest of your life, you ain't never going to find no cow. You got to be a cow to find a cow. I should have known. I wasn't no cow. You got to be a cow to find the cow. Well, it was another head scratcher. So I went back. That night I tossed and turned. I turned and I tossed. And I thought about it. And I decided, I'm going to give this thing one more try. I'm going to give it one more try. So that next day, I got me one of my grandfather's work gloves, and I got me an udder. I put that udder on. I can't get this one to stay. I put that udder on. Here we go. And I got me some sticks for some horns, and I went back out in them woods. And I was looking for that calf. And I tippy-toe around, and I look around, and every now and then I go, and then I tippy-toe in the other direction, and I go around, and I go, but I did that for like 3 or 4 hours. And I still didn't find no calf. So I decided I better go home because I know Mom Chris is going to be worried about it. So I went up the hill. I was dragging because I was really sad because I didn't find that calf, and I was a cow this time. And I go up there, and Mom Chris is on the porch. Sure enough, she's, where you been, boy? We've been worried sick about you. Because folks would love you and worry about you. So I went up there and I said, Mom Chris, I've been out all day looking for a calf, and I can't find no calf. I can't find a calf, and I was a cow today. Well, you know what Mama Chris said? She said, come. And she looked behind, and she gave me a big old hug. And she said, you can't fool Mother Nature. And I thought, Mother Nature knowed I wasn't no cow. So that's why I couldn't find the cow. So that made everything okay. But Mama Chris told me that you couldn't fool Mother Nature. You gotta be a cow to find the cow. Well, later on, I discovered what all of it meant when I became a teacher. Now, I hope that you are sufficiently confused and wondering how anybody out of a culture like that could become successful as an educator. Now let's make the connections. Let's think about those mules. I was going around looking for those, and by the way, these stories are true. I need to enhance them a little bit for your benefit. But I did grow up in a culture whose mythology was explained just the way Mama Chris did. But let's make the connection. Here's how I connected it when I finally got to a point of education. Looking at the mule situation and her explaining, why all mules are girls, to me, that is, do your homework. Do your homework. Don't ever not do your homework. And I didn't follow up and find out why all mules was girls. And to this day, I still don't know if all mules are girls. Now, I don't know if any of you know of a boy mule. If you do, you need to let me know. But always do your homework. Go that step further. That's why your teachers give you homework. Because learning is triangular. You get stuff from your teacher. You get things from people around you, like your friends. And you learn a lot on your own. You really learn a lot on your own by doing that homework. So do your homework. Don't be stubborn like Jillian. Do that homework every time. Second thing I want you to leave here with. I want you to think about those fish falling from the sky. When Mama Chris told me that fish falling from the sky, you know what it did? It lit a fire of curiosity in me. I mean, that was just a flame. Could not put it out. I had to find out for myself. Teachers set you up like that all the time for golden opportunities for you to plant those seeds of learning in that fertile field of curiosity and let you take off and find out things on your own. So you do the analysis. You go down on that bayou at night and you listen, but you also see what else is going on around here, and maybe you will figure it out. That was the rain I heard hitting the water. That was the rain that I heard. Think about all the other stuff that goes on. Curiosity is a beautiful thing. And your teachers are every day setting you up to explore it. That's the thing, number 2, I want you to take away with you. And the last thing, finding that calf. Well, when I found the calf, I cried. Because I thought about Mama Chris when I finally did find that calf. And the way that you find your calf is you think about it. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to do? Well, what you do is you become that thing. If you want to practice medicine, what do? You become a doctor. You get yourself a degree in medicine. Why? Because doctors see things and they find things that only other doctors fine. That's the cap. If you want to be a lawyer, what do? You get yourself a law degree, become that thing, that lawyer, that cow, so to speak, and you can practice law and you're going to see and find things that only other lawyers find. It's the same thing if you're an engineer or a teacher or whatever. You can find that cow by becoming that cow. You can be the cow. You can fool Mother Nature. But you have to become the thing that's going to yield those results. So those are the three things that I want you to take away. And that is the wisdom that I learned from my grandmother down in Phoenix, Arkansas, on Melville Rouse plantation. And when I think about the wisdom that I learned from Mama Chris, all I can say is, wow. Thank you.